Good. Now we're on the mixed graphs. So you have to go and try this for yourself. So we know that we've got a parabola as well as a straight line. They have given me the equations. No, I'm lying. They did not give me the equation of the parabola. So I'm guessing that's the first question, one of the first questions that they're going to ask. And the first question was to prove that A is equal to -1, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 3. Now what have I got for that parabola? Only the turning point. Ma'am, it's a mistake on this paper. It's not enough information. No, there is enough information, but you have to look a little bit further. So when we go and find angles, the line there by number 3, when we said yesterday, if we are looking for the y-intercept for the straight line, we can see that it's 3. That's why we put the 3 over there. So you have got a turning point as well as a point. So the technique for question number 1 is you've got to know that it's equal to y is equal to x minus 3 squared plus q. So if I am substituting the turning point, it's going to be -1 and plus 4. Remember how it works? The opposite way around for the x's. Plain, simple, straightforward for the y. I'm searching for A, so that's why I substitute. The other point that I thought for a moment I didn't have, but then I got to that 3. I never wrote anything. Do you think I should? In other words, that is the y-intercept of both graphs. So in other words, and point number C is 0 and 3, just so that they know where I found this from, that I can go substitute 0 and 3. But if I saw it here, I would have given you the mark anyway. So 3 in the place of y, 0 in the place of x. So we've got -1 squared, which is +1, times the a is just a. 3 minus the 4 gives me -1. And that's why I'm very happy, because they said it should be -1. Without me crooking it right, I got to -1. So now I know that the equation will be y is equal to -1 x minus 1 squared plus 4. So I go back over here where I was short the a, I just substituted the a in. And that's fine to leave it in that form, generally, isn't it? Generally. But not in this case, because they asked me to prove that a and b and c in the form ax squared plus bx plus c are those values. That's the reason why I've still got to go time it all out. And when I time it out, I'm going to get x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 4. Please don't try and do it too quickly and make mistakes. You have to go and, if you have to go write out 2 brackets and do FOIL, please do that. Please remember, if you've got 2 brackets and a number in front of it, leave the number in front first and later you time it in. So you've got y is equal to -x squared plus 2x minus 1 plus 4, and eventually, after a few steps, I get to the correct answer. Now that is the equation for fx. If the fx doesn't stand, it's fine. It's not a big problem, as long as you remember that f represents the parabola. What did I just prove? That a is -1, b is 2, and c is 3. Do you need to write that? Yes, they said, prove it to me. So you need to go write a is coming from over there. Second part of the question asked for the range of f. Now what is f? F is the parabola. If I ask for the range of f, the range of f is always the y values. And the y values that the parabola has used is everything from 4 smaller. So all the y is smaller or equal to 4. So we write. And do we have to say it's an element of the real numbers? And even swap it around. You don't have to. If it's just y is smaller than equal to 4, it's fine. Because that implicates it's real numbers. If we don't say it's not natural integers or whatever, then it's assumed that whatever you're working with is the real numbers, the big overall number system. Okay, so that was my range. Then they also wanted the axis of symmetry of f. So what is the axis of symmetry of f? X is equal to 1. Excellent, guys. It's a lot of information that you've got. Axis of symmetry is the line that goes through the turning point in a parabola. So what determines that equation? The x value of the turning point. Because that line going through there is going to be x is equal to, because remember, special lines, all the asymptotes and stuff, you're doing it lots and lots of times. Lines that go like this is y equals something constant. Lines that go vertical is equal to something x equal to something. Always. All right. Question number 4, still continuing with the same thing. I want the average gradient between points A and C. Now, yesterday we were just throwing some stuff around. I don't know what the x-intercepts are. So if I want the average gradient, first of all, you need to know that it's m equal to right? So I need those 2 points. Do I have C? Yes, I found it in the previous question. Do I have A?
No.
What is A?
It's
Is it A minus 1?
No.
What did maths teach you?
That
Small a,
and
capital letter A is not the same thing. That A is a point, and that point represents the x-intercept. So what do you have to go find if you want to find A? For the x-intercepts of f, you put y equal to 0. So of f, it's going to be 0 equal to negative x squared plus 2x plus 3. Knowing that for x-intercepts, you've got to put y equal to 0. That's part of your sketching. Then, to simplify this or to factorize this, you need to
take out a negative.
Okay, so can I just not say? Where's the negative gone to? Can I divide it away? Can I divide it away here?
No,
Why not?
because it's the equation.
That is the equation of the parabola. It's the formula for the parabola. That negative means something. So does this now mean I've got a positive parabola? No. I'm busy solving an equation now. It's not the parabola's equation anymore. It's a quadratic equation. So in this quadratic equation, you need to go find your factors, which will be x minus 3 and x plus 1, which you should know of by heart now to factorize trinomials. Then you've got x is equal to 3, or x is equal to negative 1. And please remember that the new Casio does this for you. You can get your factors like that. If you have that calculator, fantastic, you've got a privilege. Which one belongs where? What have I just found here?
2x.
The x-intercepts of the parabola are negative 1 and 3. So by A it should be
Negative
negative 1, and by B it should be 3. Well, they never asked me for B here, but I'm probably going to use it later on. Okay, so if I want the gradient between A and C, I need to know that A is the point negative 1 and 0, and C is the point 0 and 3. It's good to put it here so that I can use it together with my sum. So whichever one you want to put first, it doesn't matter. So if it's 3 minus 0 for the y's, it's going to be 0 minus 1 will become a plus, so that your gradient is 3. Is that kind of like on the sketch, kind of like positive gradient between A and C? You see it? It shouldn't be negative. Over here it would have been negative. Are you catching on? How much positive and how much negative, I don't know, but positive at least confirms between A and C it should be positive. Right, that's all that they asked. That's the end of that sum. The next question is quite a difficult question. It will always be in the level 3-4 range if they ask you for maximum distance. Often in these sketches, I'll ask you for what is OC's distance? 3 units. What is OA's distance? 1. I'm so glad you're not saying minus 1. What is AB's distance? 4. From negative 1 up to 3. Excellent. So they ask you those distances constantly. But then like in this case, I'm asking you for PQ. Now PQ is the distance between the parabola and the straight. And that's very important. If I had asked you the distance between them over here, it would have been the straight line minus the parabola. It's very important. Whenever you get a distance, it's the top one minus the bottom one. That's how we use the bigger one minus the smaller one, right? So always. So for PQ then, I'll have to find it by taking the parabola minus the straight
Line.
line. Now that's not going to be within marks, it's helping you. Take the parabola, the equation that you have. Even if you couldn't get it in question number 1, you've got it. Because they told you what A and B and C is. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Then subtract from that the straight line. Now the straight line is negative x plus 3. Subtract means it's going to change the signs. Now to save yourself some time, you could have immediately said plus x minus 3, but that's usually where the kids make the mistake. They know they should subtract, so that becomes a plus, but then they forget that the minus 3 also becomes a minus. The plus becomes a minus. So that is now not an equation. Why is this not an equation?
Because it's not equals to
It's
zero.
a formula for PQ, just like a formula for the parabola. So you can't now say divide the whole thing by 0, by negative times the whole thing by something, add something. This is an expression, not an equation. Now let's just simplify this expression for PQ and say, if I add all the like terms, minus x squared does nothing like to it. Plus 2 and plus 1 gives me plus 3x. And plus 3 and minus 3
Cancel out.
cancel each other out. So that's the expression. Now if I need to find the maximum value, ever in grade 11, maximum length or minimum length, you'll always do by completing the. Now let's remember what completing the square said. In front of that x square has to be a
Positive.
positive 1. So ma'am just said you can't take away that minus. You can just put it outside of a bracket, x squared negative 3x. Are you with me here?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that still the same thing?
Yes.
Negative x squared plus. Why can't I divide it away? Because it's not an equation, it's an expression for the length, or the formula for the length. Now let's do completing the square. If this is 1, then we take the negative 3 times a half and square it. That's tools. You've got to learn it, know it off by heart. So this, when I square it, it's going to give me 9 over 4. Where does the 9 over 4 go? Let me write another step. So the 9 over 4 must go here. And it'll always be a plus, remember why? Because it's square. Whatever you put in here, squared will always be a positive. But is that still the same expression? No, you added something in there, which you shouldn't do unless you rectify it. What did I add to this sum? Negative 9 over 4. Negative 9 over 4. So what must you put over here? But now it looks so wrong. It looks like twice you put plus plus. It's not right. You put negative 9 over 4 because the 9 over 4 is inside a bracket that's timed with a negative. So you added negative 9 over 4. So you must put plus 9 over 4 to make it cancel out. If you're really struggling with that, please time all this out and add it up. You'll still get back to the original sum. But remember, we're trying to find a maximum. So we need to find the value here at the end after the completing of the square. So the minus is going to stay a minus. Now let's complete the square. Square root is x. The sign is negative. Square root is 3 over 2. That's the steps. Once you've added this third term in completing the square, then completing the square will be square root. The second one's sine, the third one's square root, and please don't forget the square, because now you've completed the square. And over here we've still got 9 over 4, 2 1/4, 2,25, whatever way you want to say that. But very importantly is, what is then the maximum distance?
9 over 4.
That is your maximum value of PQ. Always in grade 11. Grade 12, new stuff. Then you can still use this, but there's new stuff, better stuff. Easier once you know it. Second part of this question said, first of all, find the maximum and then find OT if PQ is a maximum. Okay, now what's this got to do with stuff? Because I'm reading nothing over here. Got to go back to the sketch. So if PQ is the maximum that it can be, remember yesterday I said, for instance, say it's 7. It is 9/4 or 2 1/4, right? The distance there is 2 1/4. If that is the case, what is OT? Now listen to the translation from maths into English. So if the distance between the y values is 9/4 or 2 1/4, what is the value of x? From O to T is the value of x. All of those x's will be the same. So to find that x, you still got to go take that formula of PQ and substitute the answer of 9/4 and you'll get a corresponding x. And this is what I'm looking for. Because that value there is x. This is not level 1. Okay, just so you know. So for OT, if this is a maximum, then I know that PQ, which was originally negative x squared plus 3x, right? Before I started doing this whole thing, was equal to 9/4, because that's maximum of PQ. So that's PQ's expression equal to 9/4. But what is this now again? An equation. You're perfectly right. An equation to solve. Solve for what?
X.
And that x value is going to be the length from O to
C.
T. All right, knowing what you're doing. To do the maths, all of you can kind of like still do the maths, but to know what you're doing here. So if I have the maximum distance, where will the x value be? So to do that, first of all, please, I don't like fractions. So I'm going to time the whole thing with 4. So if I do that, it's going to be minus 4x squared plus 12x equal to 9. So at least I don't have fractions. Then it's a quadratic equation, so I should have it equal to 0. Agree? And then I should factorize, but again, that negative shouldn't be there. So I'm going to have 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. Right? And then you've got to go factorize. So 2 times 2, 3 times 3. Guys, if you can't factorize a trinomial, you better get with it, eh? James Bond style. So we've got x is equal to, let's write it out twice. 2x negative 3 is equal to 0, so 2x is equal to 3, so x is equal to 3/2. What does that mean? Where the distance between these two graphs is 2 1/4, the x value is 1.5. So the x value for both, between those two, the x value is going to be 1.5. So this has to be 1.5. So what is OT's length? 1.5, 1,5, even 3/2 units, that's your answer. Okay, difficult? For sure. It's not the easy stuff. Okay, we love these questions, don't we? For which values of x will the parabola, the purple graph, divided by the red straight line, give me an answer that's
equals to
positive is the word I'm looking for. Meaning, if it's a positive, it should be a positive divided by a positive to give me a positive, or negative divided by a negative will give me a positive. So they should both be positive or both be negative. That's what should go through your mind. You're not writing that for the marker, but that's what should go through your mind. To get a division of positive, both should be positive or both should be negative. So from the left-hand side, when we check it out, this straight line going on till forever, this parabola going on till forever, one was plus, one was minus, one was plus, one was minus, up to
C.
there, the parabola also comes to the top. And they both at the top, 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 and they both at the top. So like B. Then they're both at the bottom. I'm looking for either at the top or the bottom. So basically it's from A all the time, but not quite. And if you're unsure, rather write section by section by section. So definitely between -1 and So you remember when we did 3, we said somewhere they might use it. Here they're using it. We've done the x-intercepts right in the beginning. So now I know that it's between. So for x between -1 and 3. And then usually if that says include, you can go include. Generally, most of the time, if you say include, you have to include. So can I include the -1 though? Because if there is 0, 0 divided by will be 0 and it can be equal to 0, that's fine. But this one, because this is where the g is 0, so it's basically both of them are 0, so 0 divided by 0 is a problem. So I cannot include it there. So if you just said, well, you know what, man said, if all else fails, do whatever the sum said, if it says include everything, you were going to lose 1 mark for including it over there. That's not the complete answer. Then also all x is bigger than 3 as well. Obviously for the same reason we don't include the 3, because there they're both at the bottom. Right, next sum. Didn't explain it to you yesterday. Sorry. I'm asking where will x, what x? All x values. X values. Doesn't matter where they are. Here the x values are negative. Here the x values are positive. And it's the same principle. Now I'm timing. For the timing to be positive, both have to be negative or positive, right? So again, both have to be positive. Both what? The x value, not a graph. The x value and the parabola. So from point to point of the parabola, let's check it out. So we're ignoring the straight line now. It's the x values times the y values of the parabola. So the parabola is negative, right? And the x values here? Negative. This is true. All the time here the x values are negative and the the parabola is also negative. Parabola negative, x values negative. Up to where? Up to -1. So for x, less than -1, and this time I made it easy for me because if it's excluded, I just exclude. Right? Then the parabola is positive, while the x values are negative. The parabola is positive, x value is negative, But then the x values are positive again, while the parabola is still positive. X value is positive, parabola positive from 0 up to 3. And I'm happy about the exclude. Why not here? Because the x values are positive, while the parabola is now, and I want them both to be. So this is strange, you haven't seen this before. Have you grasped that? You'll have to go chew on it. The physical x values as it appears on the graph, negative x's, positive x's. But both the x values as well as the graph must be negative, meaning over here. There, the negative x values and the positive graph, Positive graph, positive x's, yes. Positive x's, negative graph, Both must be positive or both must be negative. It takes a while. And that's it. That's the answer. It looks so easy. Marks? Could be a lot of marks for actually just looking at the stuff. Okay. Last question. If I say fx minus q must have just one x-intercept, or the other way to ask it, only one real root. Same thing. One x-intercept, one real root. Are you with me? One real root, one x-intercept. What has to happen to this graph?
Shift.
It must shift. Traditionally they use the q, right? But they can put k there or p there or whatever. There's a shift going to have to take place with your parabola. Shame the poor straight line, we almost never use not much of it. But the parabola has to move down. So that purple parabola must now sit where? To only have one real root. On the x-axis, still going boom, boom. Now my sketch is not according to scale, but you should see it moving down. But the question is, what must q be? that to happen? Q must be 4. 4 or negative 4?
Negative 4.
Okay, I'm catching you up, I'm sorry. It must be fx minus 4, because minus 4 means go down. But what's the value of q? 4. Listen to the question. Everybody, you got it right to say negative 4, but what's the value of q then? 4, because I gave it to you like that. And I want to know what's that q over there. If I had put a plus q there, your answer for q would have been negative 4. Do you see that? Not being nice stuff of the question mark. If there's a minus, you must say q is 4, because they just put a 4 in there in making that negative 4. But you need to explain this to yourself and say the graph must move down 4 units. Right? Okay, guys, please do the next one for me for homework.